I used to think kids' imaginations were just fireworks, bright, harmless, and gone in seconds. That was before my daughter Ellie started talking to the mirror. It began one quiet Thursday morning. I was making pancakes, and Ellie was in the living room, humming to herself. She had dragged one of her dolls to the large mirror near the hallway, an old antique piece my wife, Lena, had inherited from her grandmother. I didn't think much of it until I heard her say, "No, you can't come out yet. Daddy's here." I peeked around the corner. Ellie was sitting cross-legged in front of the mirror, her head tilted, smiling softly, as if someone was smiling back. "Hey, Bug," I said, keeping my voice light. "Who are you talking to?" She didn't turn around. "My friend," she said. "She lives in there?" The words crawled under my skin. Kids make up imaginary friends, sure. But there was something off about the way she said lives. Like it wasn't pretend. Lena brushed it off when I told her later. "She's 8, Mark," she said. "You had imaginary friends, too. Remember your ghost pirate phase?" I did remember, vaguely. But my childhood ghost never made me feel watched. That night, after Ellie went to bed, I passed by the mirror again. It was an old, oval-shaped frame, its silvering chipped and dark around the edges. For a second, I thought I saw movement in the reflection. A quick flicker like someone stepping out of view. When I leaned closer, it was just me. Tired eyes, worried expression, nothing else. Still, I covered the mirror with a blanket. The next morning, Ellie was furious. "Daddy!" she shouted. "You made her angry." I froze. "Who?" Ellie's lower lip trembled. "The girl in the mirror?" "She said you shouldn't have hidden her." Her words echoed in my head all day, long after she'd gone to school. That night, I checked her drawings on the fridge. Among the rainbows and hearts, there was a new one. A childlike sketch of two girls. One was Ellie, the other had no eyes. That same night, I woke to the sound of whispering, and it was coming from the hallway mirror. The whispering was faint at first, soft enough that I could have mistaken it for the wind. But the window was closed and the sound was coming from the hallway. I sat up in bed, careful not to wake Lena. The red glow of the digital clock read 2:13 a.m. I listened again. A low murmur, rhythmic. Almost like two voices. One high-pitched, one whispering back. I grabbed my phone for light and crept out of the bedroom. The house felt different at night, stretched, hollow. Every step on the hardwood floor sounded like an intrusion. When I reached the hallway, the sound was clearer. The faint sibilance of someone speaking softly behind glass. "Ellie," I called quietly. No answer. But something shifted in the reflection. A shadow, or maybe just my imagination bending under exhaustion. The blanket I'd used to cover the mirror was gone. It was lying crumpled on the floor beside the frame. My pulse spiked. I scanned the hallway, expecting to see Ellie, but her bedroom door was closed. The mirror stood bare, the surface gleaming faintly in the dark, as though it were lit from behind. I approached, slow and unsure. For a split second, I thought I saw movement again, a flicker of a child's silhouette standing just behind me. When I turned, there was nothing. I exhaled, rubbed my eyes, and chalked it up to lack of sleep. I've been working long hours lately, trying to keep my head above water after the layoffs at the firm. My mind's been a fog of stress. Still, something about that mirror didn't sit right. The next morning, I asked Ellie if she'd gotten up during the night. She shook her head, cereal spoon halfway to her mouth. "No, Daddy." "But she talked to me after you went to sleep," she said, matter-of-factly. "Who did?" Ellie smiled, too calm, too certain. "The girl in the mirror. Her name's Mara." I felt a chill trace my spine. "What does she say to you?" "She says she used to live here," Ellie said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Before you did." Lena laughed it off when I told her later, but I couldn't shake it. We'd bought this house 2 years ago, an old craftsman-style place on the edge of town. Maybe I should have asked more questions about its history. That night, I decided to check Ellie's drawings again, to see if Mara had made another appearance. What I found instead made my stomach twist. The newest drawing wasn't of two girls anymore, it was of three. And the third figure looked exactly like me, but with dark, hollow eyes. When I looked closer, I realized the paper smelled faintly of smoke, and our fireplace hadn't been lit in weeks. I stared at the drawing for a long time, the faint burnt smell curling up from the paper. The lines around my drawn face were harsh, almost frantic, like Ellie had pressed down too hard with the crayon. Behind me, were what looked like jagged orange strokes. Flames. I took the paper to Ellie's room, heart hammering in my chest. She was sitting on the floor, brushing her doll's hair, humming that same soft tune again, the one I didn't recognize. "Ellie," I said gently, kneeling beside her, "did you make this drawing?" She nodded, eyes still on the doll. "Mara helped me." She remembers the fire. "The fire?" I tried to sound calm. "What fire?" Ellie's little shoulders lifted in a shrug. "The one from before." She said her daddy couldn't save her. My mouth went dry. Lena called from the kitchen before I could ask more, so I just stood there, watching Ellie as she whispered to her doll. But I couldn't shake her words. Her daddy couldn't save her. That night when Lena went to bed, I searched online for old property records. It took a while. This house was nearly a century old. Then buried in a 1987 local newspaper archive, I found something that made my skin crawl. Fire claims life of a local child. 8-year-old Mara. Ellison dies in accidental blaze. I stared at the grainy photo, a small girl with dark hair smiling shyly at the camera. The article said she'd lived in the same house. The mirror, the fire, the name. I shut the laptop, my hands shaking. I told myself not to jump to conclusions, but something deep in my gut already believed it. The next day, I decided to move the mirror into the garage. I waited until Ellie was at school, then carried it downstairs. It was heavier than I remembered, the glass cold to the touch. When I set it down in the corner, the surface fogged slightly, as if it were exhaling. That night, Ellie woke up screaming. When I rushed to her room, she was pointing toward the window. "She's mad at you, Daddy," she sobbed. "You locked her outside." I held her close until she calmed, whispering that everything was okay. But when I glanced at the window, I swear I saw a faint reflection, the glint of eyes watching us from the glass. The next morning, the mirror was back in the hallway, and I was the only one home. I didn't believe it at first. I thought maybe I'd forgotten, that somehow in my late-night panic I'd moved it back and blacked out the memory. But when I checked the garage, there was an empty patch of dust where the mirror had been, and faint drag marks on the concrete leading to the door. I stood there for a long moment, the morning light spilling weakly through the window, my mind racing through possibilities that made less and less sense. When Ellie came downstairs for breakfast, she froze halfway through the hallway. "She's not mad anymore," she said softly, looking at the mirror. "She said you finally listened." I swallowed hard. "Ellie, did you move this back?" She gave me a small, puzzled frown. "No, Daddy." Mara did. Lena came in behind us, coffee in hand, still in her robe. "What's going on?" Before I could answer, Ellie turned to her. "Mommy, Mara wants you to look." "She said you forgot her." Lena blinked uneasy. "Sweetheart, that's not funny." "She says you were here before," Ellie insisted, tugging at her sleeve. "When she burned." Lena froze. "What?" I tried to diffuse it with a laugh, but the color had already drained from her face. Later, when Ellie was playing in her room, I pulled Lena aside. "What was that about?" She looked shaken. "When I was little, my parents almost bought this house," she said. "They backed out last minute after after hearing about that fire. I'd forgotten all about it until Ellie said her name. I felt the air leave my chest. You think that's a coincidence? I don't know, Mark. But I don't want that thing in our house anymore. That night, after Lena fell asleep, I stood in front of the mirror again. The room was quiet except for the faint ticking of the hallway clock. My reflection stared back, pale and drawn. "Who are you?" I whispered. For a moment, there was nothing. Then, movement. Just a ripple at first, like a breath disturbing the surface of water. My reflection smiled. I didn't. I stumbled backward, my phone's light flickering as it hit the floor. When I looked up again, the reflection was normal, but something had changed. Behind my reflection's shoulder was a faint outline of a little girl, eyes wide and empty. And then, from Ellie's room down the hall, I heard her voice, whispering the same words my reflection had just mouthed. "Let me out." I bolted toward Ellie's room, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear myself think. Her small lamp was still on, casting that soft amber glow across her bed. Ellie was sitting upright, eyes closed, whispering into the darkness. "Ellie," I said, shaking her gently. Her eyes snapped open, and for a split second they didn't look like hers. They were distant, unfocused. She blinked twice, then wrapped her arms around me. "Daddy?" she whimpered. "Did you let her out?" I swallowed. "No, sweetheart. No one's coming out of anything." Her breathing slowed as she drifted back to sleep, but the words wouldn't stop echoing in my head. "Did you let her out?" The next day, I called my friend Dr. Alvarez, a child psychologist. She listened patiently as I tried to explain everything. The drawings, the whispers, the mirror. She suggested it might be grief-related, maybe a projection of stress from my recent job loss, and Ellie sensing my anxiety. "Children often mirror their parents' emotional state," she said. I almost laughed at the irony of the word mirror. That evening, Lena told me she'd scheduled an appointment for Ellie anyway. "Just to be safe," she said. But when I went to tell Ellie, I found her at the hallway mirror again, tracing her finger along the glass. "She says she likes you," Ellie said without looking up. I forced a shaky smile. "That's nice of her." "She says you used to be like her daddy," Ellie continued, her tone eerily calm. I froze. "What do you mean?" Ellie looked up at me then, her small face unreadable. "He tried to take her away from the mirror, too." But she didn't want to leave. That night, after everyone was asleep, I turned all the lights on in the hallway and covered the mirror with a heavy black sheet. I even nailed it into the wall to make sure it stayed there. But when I woke up around 3 a.m., the lights in the hallway were off, and faintly through the dark, I could hear a humming. That same melody Ellie always sang. When I switched the hallway light back on, the black sheet was gone, and my reflection wasn't alone anymore. Standing there in the glow of the overhead light, my stomach twisted. Ellie's reflection was beside mine. But she wasn't actually in the hallway. I looked around wildly. Empty. "Ellie?" My voice cracked. The reflection turned to look at me. Then it smiled. I stumbled back, breath catching in my throat. I ran to Ellie's room. She was asleep, safe, her small hand curled around her stuffed rabbit. But when I looked closely, I saw soot smudged on her fingertips, the same black-gray soot from the mirror's edges. I shook her awake. "Ellie, did you go near the mirror?" Her eyes fluttered open. "No, Daddy." "But she said you will." "She said I'll what?" "She said you'll come inside soon." Every hair on my body stood on end. The next day, I called a local antiques dealer, Mr. Rourke, to see if he could appraise or remove the mirror. When he arrived, he took one look and frowned. "I've seen pieces like this," he said, running a gloved hand along the frame. "Victorian design, silver-backed glass. Sometimes they were made using mercury compounds. can cause weird oxidation patterns. Sometimes people say it looks like faces. It's not oxidation, I said flatly. There are faces. He chuckled nervously but stopped when he looked closer. You said this was your wife's family heirloom? Her grandmother's. He nodded slowly. Well, I'd be careful. These old mirrors, people used to believe they held the last image of whoever died near them. Superstition, of course. He left quickly after that, refusing to take payment. That night, I caught my own reflection blinking, out of sync with me. And just before I turned away, my reflection leaned forward and whispered, my own voice, you're next. I barely slept that night. Every sound made me jolt awake. The house creaking, the refrigerator hum, even the faint patter of Ellie's feet when she got up for water. I sat in the hallway chair staring at that mirror, clutching a hammer. When morning came, Lena found me there. Mark, this isn't healthy, she said, worry creasing her face. You need to get some rest. I'm getting rid of it today, I said. No more discussions. I told Ellie to stay in her room and went to fetch a tarp and tools. But when I came back, the hallway was empty, and the mirror was gone again. I found it upstairs, leaning against the wall outside Ellie's room. The glass shimmered faintly as if it were breathing. I swung the hammer before I could think. Once, twice, 3 times. The surface cracked like ice. For a moment, I felt relief. Then the cracks began to bleed. A thin, dark liquid seeped down the glass and pooled on the floor. It wasn't blood, more like black water. And then I heard it, a faint child's sob echoing from inside the mirror. Daddy, stop! Ellie screamed behind me. She ran forward, arms outstretched. Before I could stop her, she pressed her hand to the broken surface. The glass pulsed under her palm. For a second, the reflection shifted. I saw a burning room, a little girl screaming, smoke curling through the air. Then it all went dark. When I blinked, Ellie was on the floor, unconscious. The mirror was whole again. I rushed her to the hospital, but the doctor said she was fine. No burns, no head injury, just deep sleep. It's like she's dreaming, one said. We can't wake her yet. I didn't tell them what I'd seen. That night, when I got home alone, Ellie's voice came softly from the hallway. Through the mirror. Daddy, she whispered. It's okay. She says I can stay here now I haven't slept since that night. The house feels wrong now. Too quiet, too heavy. Lena's staying at her sister's with Ellie, who still hasn't woken up. I walk past the hallway mirror every morning. I can't help it. It's like gravity. It pulls my eyes toward it. Yesterday, I noticed something new. A faint outline behind my reflection. A child's shape. Today, it's clearer. Ellie. She's standing just over my shoulder, smiling faintly, the way she used to when she asked for pancakes. I reach toward the glass, my fingers trembling. The surface ripples slightly under my touch. Ellie, I whisper, can you hear me? Her reflection nods slowly. Mara says you can come too. My throat tightens. No, sweetheart. I'm getting you out, I promise. Her small hand presses against the glass from the other side. The air between us feels warm, almost alive. Then her smile falters. It's too late, Daddy. She needs someone to stay. I feel the pull before I even realize what's happening. The sensation of falling forward, like my own reflection is yanking me inside. I jerk back, heart pounding, gasping for breath. When I blink, the hallway is empty again, but something's off. My reflection isn't matching me anymore. It lingers a moment too long when I move. Its smile stretches wider than mine, and behind it, Ellie's reflection tilts her head and whispers something I can't quite hear. I lean closer. The glass fogs as if exhaling. Then, faintly, I see a shadow moving. A small hand reaching out from inside the mirror, resting gently against the other side of the glass. For a heartbeat, I almost raise my hand to meet it. Almost. The next morning, Lena called to say Ellie finally woke up. But when I answered, a child's voice spoke through the line instead, soft and familiar. Daddy, it said, why aren't you in the mirror with us?